Hey guys, how you doing? I don't know. There's some news in the Canadian economy that has been sort of playing in my mind for a long time, and now it's become fairly newsworthy. It seems to be showing up in my news feed an awful lot lately, and that means to me that potentially, whoever's in charge is actually maybe a little bit afraid, and I can see why. And basically, what I'm talking about is that the news that Canadians, basically in, sort of the top seven developed nations in the world as a whole, have the highest debt level compared to any other population on the planet. And that is really scary. Um, I'm going to talk about some things that I think that could maybe help this, but I'm going to do that on our other channel on Stand-Up Economists, and we'll link to that video because that is an opinion piece, as is this. But I kind of want to talk about in this video how I think we got here, and since 2008. Basically, when Canadian banks were shown to be very strong and very great for the world because we didn't break, well, the American banks did. This allowed Canadian banks to keep doing what they were doing, and over time, they've sort of changed their structure and turned it into a profit-only model, which has caused almost all of these problems, in my opinion. So, the first thing, sort of that was the breakdown of this in my mind, and the inflation story that we don't talk about is, okay, the Canadian government, just like every other government, when COVID happened, decided to print a whole lot of money to help people not go into default, to help people be able to feed themselves, to help employers stay in business, all of these things. They printed money. Whether or not they did that correctly, that's not part of the video, but at the exact same time, one thing happened in Canada especially that was very problematic, and this has also added to inflation, and this has been adding to inflation for decades, and this was just a huge push. So what happened was a sort of fake boom happened because all of this money came into the economy out of our taxpayer dollars, went into the economy and made this fake boom. And everything happens the same way when a fake boom happens, is that real estate prices in Canada go absolutely berserk. We all know that this happened. And what happens is the banks just kept saying, look at how much money we can make by lending more and more and more, and not challenging the fact that maybe that house isn't actually worth that much money. Maybe that's a fake value. When your place in Toronto went from $800,000 to $1.6 million, now you have the ability to borrow against that, to reinvest back into something or buy more stuff. But that's actually fake money. That is printed money that adds to this like sort of fake money game where that's not real. At least the money that was printed that went into the economy was supposedly coming from somewhere rather than this fake invisible source of real estate being worth something that no human being can actually afford in this country. So our incomes aren't going up. Our debt levels are going up. Now that this happened, the Bank of Canada is like, holy crap, this inflation is like, wasn't transitory like we lied about, and whoever thought it was going to be transitory, which means that they thought it was only going to be very short-lived. So now they're increasing interest rates, which they should have increased interest rates during the boom that was caused during COVID, which would have slowed down the bank's profits because people wouldn't have been buying as much because they weren't like, oh, I can borrow for free on a $1.5 million house, and now all of a sudden I owe 5% on it and I'm absolutely screwed. And that's it. It's like all of these things just worked to gain money for the shareholders of the banks, and we all know that they had record profits coming out of COVID way beyond anything that they had ever made before. And if you think about the flow of money, all it was us taxpayers put money into the system to save our economy, and the banks took a very, very huge portion of it by saying, we'll lend to anybody on anything. Oh, your property in Vancouver is worth $2.4 million on a house that's completely broken down. You make $80,000 a year. Of course you can afford that at 0%. We'll lend you that all day because we make record profits and this is great for us and not good for anybody else. That's it. Our money flowed in, went to the banks. Our money flowed in, went to the banks, and now we are screwed. And I thought, I was almost certain that they weren't going to raise interest rates again, but now they're scared that inflation is still maintained. It's too high of a level. And so they're going to raise inflation or interest again to try and tamp down on inflation. However, since most Canadians have so much debt, that's actually going to mean less money in your pocket than inflation going up would. Because if your groceries go up 4%, but your mortgage goes up 40%, what's worse? What's going to cause you to have less money? So it's like this, like, I don't even know. It is a problem. And we need to do something about it. I want to start talking to people that actually want to have constructive conversations about how we can fix this, because as far as I can see right now, there's absolutely no end in sight. Doesn't matter what the election holds. Doesn't matter if Trudeau gets out of office. Doesn't matter what happens, in the Alberta election. These things are not going to cause the root of the problem, which is massive banking profits built off of us, who are the taxpayers. And the only people that are benefiting are maybe the top 10,000 shareholders of the bank. You love your bank dividends, but I guarantee you're paying more to the bank every year than you're earning in dividends. Everybody is. Bank fees, interest, credit cards, your investment fees, all of those things combined, if we added it up, the average Canadian is paying probably 10 times as much as they're earning in dividends on their bank shares. So why is that good for you? It isn't. And let's just think about this very simply. If you go and talk to a bank advisor and the bank's model is, let's make as much money as possible, which is their model. I hope you believe that a corporation that is faceless has this model of, let's earn as much money as humanly possible. Well, they are going to earn way more money off of putting you in debt than putting you into a good financial position. This is why a financial advisor that's separate from the bank, that doesn't care about bank profits, is going to work better for you, because our job is to make you have less debt and more money, but they are incentivized by you having less money and more debt. So let's just do some simple math on this. You have $50,000 in your RSP. You're paying 2% to the bank. It's $1,000 a year. The bank's profits on that, after they've paid like fees to the fund and fees to the person that's job they've created, their profit on that's probably 1.2%, $600 a year. But if they have you in $50,000 worth of debt, say combined with $20,000 on a credit card and $30,000 on, say, a line of credit at 8-9%, you're paying an average of 10% on $50,000. That's $5,000 of interest to them a year, and they're basically paying nobody to do this. There's not job creation like people say. These things aren't happening. Your mortgage is, would they rather have you paying 5% on a mortgage on, $1 million, or $1 million in their mutual fund where they're earning 1.2%, or actually way less, because they're giving you a really good fee because you have $1 million and they're only charging you 8,000, but you've got $1 million mortgage at 5%. They're earning $50,000 a year and paid that mortgage broker maybe $2,000 once every 5 years. So they make 48 grand in the first year and 50 grand the next 4 years. What do you think they want to do? And it's as simple as that. The flow of money is not working. And so we need to talk about how the flow can come out of those types of things and come back to us and help us. So if you want to talk about some of the ideas that I have to maybe take some of this back from the banks as individuals, as taxpayers, as a society, then we'll do that. If you want to argue about a whole bunch of things or bring hatred to it, we will not answer you. That is not what we're about. We're trying to help. We're trying to talk to smart people about how to do this better because it's not working anymore.